Please bet on football games.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Please Bet on Football Games podcast. I am your host Alex, here with the on-air talent Joe. Joe, how's it going this week?
We suck. We should never bet again.
The run is over. I'm sad. It would have been really fun to take it into the playoffs, but at the same time, it's kind of nice. Get it out of the way now, and then we can be hot for the playoffs. We don't want to get too complacent.
I mean, it came down to the Vikings-Lions game, as it should have, because that's the only game we actually wanted to bet on, and we lost it. So, no complaints, although Sam Darnold hit a barn one time.
He was bad.
Sam Darnold, we'll get to it.
He was seeing ghosts.
I don't even think he was seeing ghosts. I don't think he was seeing a goddamn thing.
All right, first up.
Well, hold on. End of the regular season, how do we do?
Okay, so this week we wagered 8 units. We lost 1.9 units, a 42.9% win percentage. Sad. At least we got to double digits. And we end the regular season up 17.1 units with a 52.6% win percentage and an 11.5 return on investment.
If every one unit bet you make is worth 1.15 units, you're doing something right.
Exactly. Basically, we almost won 1 unit per week.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Just a shade under that. Regardless, the picks. Start off hot. Our first bet, New England over Buffalo money line. That was a 1 unit bet at plus 130 odds. Hit.
Yeah, that was a great bet. Did you see Buffalo punted from New England's like 35?
No.
Buffalo actively wanted no part in winning that game. Not only did they pull Josh Allen after 1 snap, they pulled Mitch Trubisky halfway through the game. So we got Mike White on like 3 days' notice. Yeah, absolutely the right side. Effort trumps all. We didn't get Drake May all game like we thought we would, but Joe Milton played apparently the best game of all time. I mean, he actually had a couple throws in that game that are like probably the best 2 or 3 throws I've ever seen in my life.
That one where he was rolling to his left, stopped at the sideline, and threw like 50 plus yards on a rope into the end zone was insane. Like, even the defense, you could see like the guys give up because they were like, oh, he can't make that throw. Dude, no one can make that throw.
Most guys can't make that throw with their feet planted, right? Yeah. Like, he threw a bullet past 40 yards. It was, according to Next Gen Stats, it was the hardest thrown ball in the history of the NFL.
I don't doubt it. That was crazy. It looked like a shortstop.
You know that Baker Mayfield and Tom Brady are like 2 and 3 in that? Tom Brady in 2020.
Some weak-armed dudes.
And then Joe Milton, who famously can throw an orange 110 yards.
Just nuts. Anyway, another win. We had Houston over Tennessee, -1. That was a 1 unit bet. Nice.
Couldn't have been easier. Turns out Davis Mills just about as productive as CJ Stroud. Who would have guessed?
Well, now let's talk about some losses. There are going to be a few of them. First up, we had Miami over the Jets, -1. Backfired. It got close.
It was real close for a while. I forgot that the only thing Aaron Rodgers loves more than psychotropic substances is himself. And this was his swan song. So he literally spent the entire game trying to throw touchdowns to Devontae Adams and pad his own stats. And that's probably should have played more like that all year, I guess, because it worked real
seriously.
Well. The Dolphins got so damn close. Snoop Huntley threw like 2 of the dumbest picks you'll ever see in the end zone. I'm so glad I don't have to bet on Snoop Huntley like literally ever again, because I don't think he's getting another backup job.
Yeah, I hope not. Not because I have any ill will towards the guy, but let's get some new blood in there. Someone that we haven't seen be not good for so many games.
Miami needs to get a starting quarterback, period. Even if you like Tua, first of all, you're a dumb guy. And second of all, he doesn't play. We spent so much time focusing on the constant brain trauma he puts himself through for no reason that we forgot about the fact that he had a career-threatening hip injury in college, which is acting up now. Like, the man's body is not meant to be in this position, and I understand that he can throw some wide-open wheels and some quick slants, but he shouldn't, and you certainly shouldn't count your entire career on it, Mike McDaniel. And Mike McDaniel is currently at the exact Matt Nagy inflection point where you took a terrible quarterback and you made him ridiculously productive for a while, Mitch Trubisky, Tua, but because you commit yourself to that shitty quarterback for too long, your reputation is now screwed. And so at this point in Matt Nagy's career with Chicago, continually making the playoffs or coming very close, they moved on from Trubisky and they reached on Fields because he had to be the answer, and he wasn't. And you can't feel bad for Matt Nagy getting fired when he banks his career on a shitty quarterback followed by a similarly shitty quarterback. If Mike McDaniel goes out there and his solution to all this is to like bring in Jimmy Garoppolo, then yeah, dude, you can't be a head coach because you make terrible decisions at the most important position. And I love you to death, but that matters.
They'll get Kirk.
See, I don't know if that's better.
Exactly.
Honestly though, Kirk is substantially better than Tua in this offense. But that's off-season potting. That's off-season potting.
His arm is so bad, but yeah, okay.
Oh, like Tua's?
Dude, it was...
I know.
Off-season. I think deserved loss.
Yeah, we deserved it.
Next up, one of our two best bets. We had Kansas City over Denver. We had a half-unit money line. Who cares about the odds? And 1.5 units plus 10.5.
Yeah, so we listen, we thought that Patrick Mahomes was going to sit. We thought Carson Wentz was going to play the whole game. Carson Wentz didn't even play the whole game. And the Chiefs also benched 14 other starters and did not give a flying fuck. And our whole handicap was Andy Reid typically benches starters, but he actually tries to win. He did not try to win. It almost looked like he intentionally lost. It was terrible. There was no hope from the start. The Broncos needed that shit. I don't know why. Maybe the Chiefs were afraid, like, what happens if the Bengals get into the playoffs?
Yeah, maybe they really are scared.
That's the only thing I could think, is that they were thinking, like, God forbid Denver upsets Buffalo, we're not scared. We beat Denver all the time. But God forbid Cincy gets in and upsets Buffalo, that's scary, because they play us tough. So we didn't handicap the motivation properly. We totally deserve to lose. I feel like an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, it is a little like we took New England over Buffalo because Buffalo had negative motivation and New England still kind of wanted to win, maybe. Whereas Kansas City also is in the same position as Buffalo, so they probably don't care. We thought Reed would, but Denver had to win to make the playoffs, and that was a mess.
Yeah.
Anyway, on to our other best bet. We had Minnesota over Detroit money line. That was a 2-unit bet at plus 130. Lost. Sam Darnold was terrible.
I don't think we were fucking wrong. I think Sam Darnold was just that bad, right? Like, okay, Justin Jefferson, he's a pretty good receiver. He's one of the like 3 dudes in the league where it legitimately doesn't matter at all if he's covered. Just put the ball in his area and watch him do some shit, right? And that's one of the beautiful things about Kirk Cousins in Minnesota is he really seemed to grasp that quickly. Like, I don't have to play quarterback. I have to play alley-oop to Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson was covered in man coverage for most of the game by Amik Robertson, who I loved at Louisiana Tech coming out in that draft. But he's 5'8".
And Justin Jefferson, been playing him since high school. He knows.
Yeah, and there's a reason that his ass went to Louisiana Tech after getting embarrassed by Justin Jefferson in high school. If it had gone better, they would have been teammates at LSU. It didn't. Not throwing one jump ball to Justin fucking Jefferson on a 5'8" reserve corner is malpractice. The only thing that could be worse is if, I don't know, you were accurate on like 38% of your aimed passes. In walks Sam Darnold to shit all over himself on national television. Like, I'm trying to think of the lowest crime he could have commit during the game that would have cost him as much money and aplomb. Because he was the sweet summer child, the golden boy. An hour before that game started, people loved him. He made the Pro Bowl. He shouldn't have. And like, look, I was one of the drivers of the bandwagon on Sam Darnold being very productive this year. I said it doesn't matter if he's good or not. He is okay. He has above average physical talent, and he doesn't have to think on Minnesota because the receivers are so good and the scheme is so creative. Kevin O'Connell, we love the cock, will make Sam Darnold impressive. And Sam Darnold let the cock down. He made the cock droop. He really softened the cock's edge. I wonder why YouTube doesn't push this podcast more.
I mean, I agree with you that, well, like, one, you were a lot higher on him than even I was. Because I thought in the preseason you were talking about, no, they're still going to be really good because of exactly what you just laid out. That he's not going to have to think and he can throw well enough and move well enough that he'll do great. And you were right. I mean, obviously he's had some bad games, not even including last week. There was that stretch in the middle of the year where he was just turning the ball over in the red zone. I mean, the team was as well. Like Aaron Jones kept fumbling, but he just looked like he was really struggling, couldn't complete stuff, couldn't like actually finish. And last week was even worse. So I don't know. I mean, he's done well this year, but obviously last week was terrible. I'm struggling with Minnesota moving forward, which sucks given that they played this week.
Well, and the worst thing is Minnesota has been one of our cash cows all year because before the year, most people were talking about them as a bottom 10 team, and I was talking about them as a top 5 team. Okay.
One of our few preseason predictions that actually turned out well. I was thinking about talking about our win totals that we guessed on too.
Oh, I don't even remember them.
I
know we probably had Tennessee over.
We had Tennessee over.
That team is rubble. That franchise might have to disband.
Then we had Pittsburgh under.
And Tomlin voodoo.
I think we had Washington under.
Did we?
I think so.
Yuck. Well, we got Minnesota.
Yeah, I think we may have taken Minnesota.
We nailed the entire NFC North, so maybe we should just stick to our home divisions.
Yeah.
There is a world where Sam Darnold doesn't miss 5 wide open targets on 2 consecutive goal line possessions. You add 14 points to this game, it's totally different. But we don't live in that world. This probably is a coin flip game, and we were on the wrong side of the coin flip with a quarterback who played like shit. I'm inclined to take the L.
Yeah, I think we missed. One thing I do want to talk about, and we'll talk about it when we get into their game, but they've been completely unable to run the ball in the red zone.
Absolutely. And shout out RTR for putting that chart together because it perfectly exhibits something that we see when we watch the game.
Yeah, shout out RTR. Saw it on Twitter. But the other thing I was going to talk about, because the Lions still played them to cover the pass in the red zone.
As they should have, because that's what they do.
Right. And also, like, how is that affecting Darnold? Because he sucks in the red zone. Or at least there have been a lot of games where he's been really bad in the red zone. It
shouldn't matter because there were wide open guys, right? Like, the first third down at the goal line, they basically ran the exact same play that Russ Wilson got picked off on in the Super Bowl at the goal line, where it's just like kind of a little flat with a slant underneath it, or a fade with a slant underneath it. It doesn't actually matter because it's just a pick. And it worked perfectly. The slant underneath to Jordan Addison was wide open, and Darnold looked right at it and said, ah! And then he just airmailed a corner route to the tight end. If Darnold could have hit half of his targets to TJ Hawkinson, the Vikings win this game. Okay, I do my charting. If you're on this YouTube channel, you're familiar with it. If you're just listening on Spotify or something, I chart games. PGP points. I assign values to all the different kinds of categories of plays when I grade, right? And it has an algorithm, comes out with a point total. I used to call it slugging because it works the same way as slugging. Sam Darnold got a -20, Alex.
Jesus.
Yeah, so I know what you're thinking. Has anybody ever gotten a -20? Yes, they have. Justin Fields in 2022, I believe against the Browns.
Oh, yeah.
And Mac Jones the same year, I don't recall against who. I do recall saying, I'm never grading another one of his fucking games again. And then I graded every single one of his games that year because I have a problem in my head.
We'll talk about it more when we get into their actual game. Let's finish out this week. We had our bonus bet, and thank God we did. We had Philly over the Giants plus 2.5. They won that game outright, very cleanly. Good bet.
Yeah, nothing to say about it. The Giants are a shit show.
So that wraps up the regular season. Like I said, we ended up We ended up plus 17 and change, about 53% win percentage. Solid year, but now it's playoffs.
Now is when we usually get real hot.
It is. And typically I feel like we've struggled in the wild card. and then we really hammer the division and on.
Well, in the wild card, it's always just hard to find spreads that we like because some of these games get so out of hand.
Yeah.
But the lesson that we've learned in the past is that typically these bigger favorites, they cover because they're trying to beat the fuck out of you. They're not messing around.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. With that said, you want to talk about some playoff football?
Yeah, let's start with the annual Saturday afternoon Texans game that they lose every fucking year, dude.
We have the Los Angeles Chargers going to play the Houston Texans on Saturday at 3:30 p.m. The Chargers are -3. Road favorite.
I think the Chargers win the TJ Yates Memorial Saturday afternoon wildcard game.
It is so funny that they win their division so often or get in the playoffs, if only because their division is so bad.
TJ Yates, Deshaun Watson, Ryan Fitzpatrick, I think, had one before TJ Yates. I don't think Davis Mills got there. He did not.
Matt Schaub?
Definitely back in the day. And now CJ Stroud. It does not matter. They get to the Saturday afternoon playoff game. They lose. They go back. They lose. So the basic handicap on this game is, first of all, the Texans defense is good, but it's not like some kind of stalwart that you really got to be afraid of, right? It's like fringe top 10. Let's bring up the lineups. Let's do the diligence. We only have a few games. We'll do them right. Watching and grading Justin Herbert this past week, they're really like ramping Quentin Johnston up to be a legitimate outside wide receiver in this game, or like going forward. They gave him a lot of targets, and he didn't look totally lost. I mean, he did drop a ball or two, but that's like, I don't want to say excusable, but, it's going to happen. What I really like is Ladd McConkey just eating. Ladd McConkey's super quick and agile, right? Well, he's going to go against Kamari Lassiter, who's a big corner, 6 foot, and I actually really like him, but I like him on the outside. And for whatever fucking insane reason, the Texans are going to stick Lassiter in the slot, apparently. Now, everything changes about this handicap if they move Stingley inside, but here's the problem with that. Their third corner is Jeff Okudah. Jeff Okudah shouldn't be in the NFL. He wouldn't start in a Power 5 college team anymore. It's over, Jeff.
When's he going to play safety?
Never. He can't tackle.
That's a problem.
When you're a speed corner who's not very fast, you shouldn't be in the league. Maybe he could like tie shoes for guys.
Special teams. It's a
Sure.
premier special teamer.
Nah, it's Jeff Okudah. It sucks. So Ladd McConkey's really good. He's really quick, and Lassiter is going to struggle with that. God forbid they move Stingley into the slot, which is probably the smart move because McConkey is like the absolute bona fide clear number one target for the Chargers passing offense. They move Stingley inside. It takes away McConkey to a large extent because Stingley's great. But now you have DJ Chark and Quentin Johnston, both very fast receivers, big fast receivers, against Jeff Okudah, who sucks all imaginable kinds of penis. And then Lassiter, who's slow. This is a problem, and it's an especially big problem because their starting safeties are Eric Murray, yes, that Eric Murray, who was terrible for the Browns 6 years ago, and something called Kalen Bullock.
The Chiefs for 3 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, Eric Murray, another guy where it's like, how are you here? Who do you know, and what do you know about them? The strength of this Texans team is their outside pass rush, not their interior pass rush, their exterior pass rush, their defensive ends. That's like the only thing the Chargers do well on offense other than have Justin Herbert, right? So between Alt and Slater, I really think they can handle Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. That shaky interior will hold up against an aging rapidly Danico Autry and Mario Edwards, who I did like, but again, he's getting up there, and he's never really blossomed the way I thought he would. The fast, excellent coverage linebackers, To'o, Al-Shaair, Christian What's-His-Face from Alabama, Harris, they're not really going to factor in because when the Chargers throw to their tight ends, it's all play action and shit. The linebackers get taken out of the play anyway. Typically, they throw outside. So it's not like the defense matches up particularly well. And while the Chargers offense isn't like some kind of juggernaut, they do have the elite Justin Herbert. Flip to the other side of the ball, I have a similar caliber of defense going up against a much worse offensive line that can't handle their exterior pass rush. I have a quarterback who can't handle pressure, and he's going to face a lot of it. And really, like, the Texans have an extremely deep excellent wide receiver core, but the only one that Stroud trusts that is remaining is Nico Collins. Well, you can handle Nico Collins. You can put safety help over the top and one of your 3 solid cornerbacks on him. So I think that the Chargers will have, I don't want to say success, but like they won't look inept against this Texans defense. But I think the Texans offense could really struggle.
All right, I definitely agree with you in terms of Texans offense versus Chargers defense. I think they're going to struggle. I think Stroud is going to have to actually make plays, which he hasn't been able to do for a lot of this year and hasn't been able to do like throughout an entire game for pretty much this entire year. We know scheme fades in the playoffs. We have an elite quarterback going against one that's a little above average.
Is he?
I think he still is because he can navigate pockets well and extend plays.
He has one move. He runs backwards and then does a loop-de-loop to the left.
And people are figuring it out, but it's still somewhat effective.
It is better than just cowering, I guess. But I mean, dude, he's been making a lot of pressure-induced mistakes lately. It's because he has fewer options at receiver, so it just becomes throw it up to Collins, you know?
And I think even though he's been able to extend plays, he still does get panicky in the pocket. And some of that stuff that you saw at Ohio State, where as soon as pressure got into his face, he was just chucking the ball or bailing and throwing it away, or throwing picks. He didn't do well with it. Now he's done a lot better with it in the NFL, but it kind of seems like his teams have figured out what he likes to do, have figured out his move, have figured out Slowick's offense a little bit. He hasn't been able to create on his own. And I think that's going to be the biggest problem and the overall difference in this game, because he really has the one receiving option. Like Dalton Schultz is a decent tight end. He'll get you some catches over the middle, but he's nothing special.
Yeah.
And the other receivers are fine.
Yeah, like John Mechie is like fine.
Yeah.
You don't want him as your number 2, though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mixon's had a good year, but this offensive line has gotten worse as the year's gone on. And the Chargers have a talented, well-schemed defense. That Harbaugh, that rah-rah type, I think does do well for defenses. Like, it does make an impact there.
Yeah.
So,
and
I
Jesse
like
Minter is a
matchup.
brilliant DC.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the Chargers definitely have the advantage on defense. But when you go to offense, I am worried because say they put Stingley inside.
Yeah.
You lose your safety blanket, the creator for a lot of big plays throughout the year. And then you have to rely on Quentin Johnson actually catching passes.
Well, no, you know what they're going to do. They're going to go 3 tight ends. They're going to make you play base defense or even fucking bear defense. And they're going to throw to Will Dissly and Stone Smart. And I will say, Stone Smart might be a tight end too, a high-end tight end too. And the fact that that's like a revelation for this Chargers team speaks directly to the failure that was their offseason. Because they could have had Malik Neighbors and Ladd McConkey, damn it. That's a good thing they're 4 deep now with starting offensive tackles. And those tackles can't play inside because they're not very mobile. Oh, yeah. No, it's a fucking mess. Anyway, if push comes to shove, I trust Justin Herbert with lots of time, even if it is Quentin Johnson, even if it is Ladd McConkey being covered. I don't think they'll move Stingley inside.
I don't really expect them to either.
It's a cover 3 base defense, right? So like they value the slot less just because of how their defense is built to play, right? They don't man up as much. They don't play as much cover 2 where Stingley can kind of cover both of those areas. It's a lot of cover 3, some cover 4. And in those cases, having the outside corner is more important. So I think that's what they're gonna do. And besides, I don't care if you fucking suck. I don't care, because one day DJ Chark is gonna be DJ Chark again. I don't know when it happens, but it has to happen, right? Like he's 6'4" and runs a 4.4. Why can't he play? He's gotta play. So
I don't know, but so many people have tried it.
I know, and he's done it sometimes though. He had a 1,000-yard season. He's Terrell Pryor. I think Jeff Okudah is enough of a liability that the Chargers will be able to score no matter how the Texans align themselves. Especially because the Texans' entire defensive plan is Will Anderson or Danielle Hunter will get home, and Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt have something to say about that. It's simple.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I want to do this bet because it's 3, so it's a very bettable line.
Sometimes it really does just come down to this is an under field goal number, and we get the team with the better quarterback.
We get the team with the better quarterback. I think, the scheme is less important. The Texans haven't been able to do anything on offense, so let's roll.
I'm with you.
All right, that's a bet. Also, we should talk about, do we have any, because there's no contest anymore, right? There are only
No.
5 games. So
No.
are we picking all 6? Are we?
I think we should give a lean on all 6, but we're gonna bet what we want to bet, dude. We're just basically, honestly, we're doing the page on the pod.
Yeah, no, I think that's what we should do as well. Give a number or something that we like, but if we don't feel anything on a game, we don't have to bet it.
Yep. All right. Next game, your neck of the woods.
Next up, at 7 o'clock on Saturday, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers going to play the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are -9.5.
It will be freezing cold, and this game will be on Amazon. And you know what? Listen, I already said on this pod, favorites typically roll in these situations. I kind of like the Steelers, and I hate myself for it.
Yeah, my gut also says Steelers because it's 9.5.
Exactly. I don't think the Steelers will win, but I think they can keep it a one-possession game because that's what they do.
Get it to a one-score game. Now, I always worry about the Steelers in the playoffs because they've done this for the last how many years where they overperform like crazy in the first 12 games, and then they're horrible the last 5 or somewhere around there. And
I mean, yeah,
that's
they get
what's
to week
happened
10
to them,
and they fall apart.
And, they didn't have Pickens for a decent stretch of that, but I don't know, they look rough last week.
How do you think George Pickens responds to the worst game of his career?
I don't know.
Does he come out like a man possessed? Because he is. Or does he come out pouting and just like, fuck this, I retire from football? For all I know, he brings a gun. I have no clue. This man is... There's a goaltender in the NHL named Pyotr Kochetkov, and many people online call him goalie with a knife because he's just kind of crazy and he does whatever. George Pickens is wide receiver with many knives, an entire arsenal of weapons, and a nose full of something chemical. And the beauty of it is I think it's God-given to George Pickens. I think he's truly just got the wrong chemicals in his head. But if we believe Mike Tomlin is anything close to what he is respected as, when it comes to, being a leader, a motivator, a voodoo witch doctor, he's going to have these guys playing the game of their fucking life, right? Like, everybody just watched the Steelers chug non-preferred genitals on national television for a month. Vegas had to set this line somewhere, right? They could have made this Baltimore -16. They didn't. Are we getting value on the Ravens because you don't want to make a line too big? Or are we getting value on the Steelers because everybody and their mother just watch him suck?
Yeah, I mean, and Zay Flowers is hurt. If he plays this week, which I think he probably will, but...
Will he? There's no way. His knee looked like it fell apart.
I don't know. I know earlier in the week he said that it's definitely not out for the playoffs, and he might play on Saturday.
I might still hit that growth spurt. I'm not going to hit that growth spurt.
But if there's no Zay Flowers, then I love it. I think motivation is tough to rely on, though, because it's the playoffs. They're all motivated. I do think, though, that the Steelers play Lamar well. They know, sometimes he's going to beat you because he is good and he does just have so many tools that if he's throwing the ball well, he might just beat you. And this has been his best year passing.
Oh, Lamar Jackson's a legitimately good quarterback this year. After years of me saying he's average to below average, but exciting, I think he's legitimately good now. Probably top 5. Largely because there's just no fucking good quarterbacks, but I gave him he averaged like a 2.5 on the year. I graded every one of his games. 2.5 is pretty fucking good. Because that, you throw out like the outlier bad games and suddenly guys like a 2.6, 2.7, that's a good quarterback. So Lamar
it's been his best year.
He's still overhyped, but he's legit good now. The offensive line is sick. It's just this offensive line is 5 of quote unquote my guys in a row. Rosengarten, Fa'alele, Linderbaum, Makari, and Stanley are all dudes who I was like, why don't people love them? And turns out people should have loved them. They're also 2 deep, probably 3 deep at tight ends who could legitimately start on half the teams in the league. And even if Zay Flowers doesn't play, they still have Bateman and Aguilar. I love those guys. I love this and Derek fucking Henry. God damn it, this team is well built. The AFC North is just the AFC North is where all the best GMs live, and then Andrew Berry, who's not a terrible GM outside of quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But I think that Zay Flowers is like kind of the thing that makes that offense or the passing attack run, though.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's Antonio Brown.
Yeah, like he's their best option, and he's in the slot a lot. So he goes everywhere and offers a lot of options to Lamar and is a big safety valve for him. So if he's not playing, I think that makes Lamar a lot more uncomfortable. And the Steelers know how to play him. They're going to throw exotic stuff at him. They're going to try and confuse him, and they're going to make him throw. And so, like, yeah, he still does have a lot of good options, and it's tough to, like, you can't sit back against this team because they have 2 elite rushing threats.
Yeah.
But if there's no Zay Flowers, I think they're going to have to rely a lot more on the run. And then you have plus 9.5, where the team that's going to win is going to be bleeding clock.
I'm not touching this game. I lean Pittsburgh, but once again, and this is not predictable, the entire bet's going to come down to how many times does George Pickens catch a deep ball?
No, that's fair.
That's all any Steelers game is, because Tomlin, through witch doctor bullshit, I almost had an unsavory quote from Ricky Bobby. Mike Tomlin will find a way to keep the game lower scoring, period. If George Pickens can catch 2 fuck-it punts from Russell Wilson's diminutive arm, the Steelers certainly cover, and they might even fucking have a chance at winning.
Especially the way the Ravens have been kicking this year.
Especially. And Kyle Hamilton's hurt and playing a little bit out of position, right? They don't have him at linebacker anymore. They have him back at safety, where he's good, not great.
The Steelers kicker's been incredible this year, too.
Do you know why Boswell's so good? Story came out. So everybody saw Steve Sarkisian like holding his kicker by the head and like staring into his eyes and like telling him like, if you make this kick, I'm going to suck you. James Harrison, throughout the beginning of Chris Boswell's career, would just sit and stare at him in all meetings and on the sideline, just menacingly, like fucking prison shit. And would basically insinuate, like, if you don't hit all of your kicks, I'm going to do prison shit to you without the ranch dressing. So I think we should move on from this fucking game because I have to go to hockey in 20 minutes and I don't have a bet.
Yeah, I mean, I lean Steelers, but it is completely reliant on Zay Flowers not playing. And even then, I'm still scared because I could see the Steelers continuing this fall being who we thought they were, while the Ravens run away with this game and just bully the hell out of them.
Well, that's the thing is like we don't think the Steelers are good, right? We just think that weird shit happens. And I'm not betting on weird shit.
Yeah, and we don't have to bet on it. So
we don't.
Good point. Let's move on to Sunday. At 12 o'clock, we have the Denver Broncos going to play the Buffalo Bills. The Bills are minus 8.5.
Money's coming in on Denver, Alex. You want to join it?
No.
Fuck no.
Scheme fades in the playoffs.
Yeah, scheme fades in the playoffs, and literally all the Broncos do with Bo Nix is just throw short screens and shit. And it's productive, but it's not going to work against this Bills team. This Bills team plays a lot of zone. They have big defensive backs like Rapp, Hamlin, Benford, Rasul Douglas. These are all dudes who hit, right? They're big dudes. They come up and hit. Fuck, Teron Johnson can hit. You don't... The way you beat this Bills defense isn't throwing short and running on them. It's throwing beyond them because they're all kind of big and slow. You also have 2 linebackers who are rangy tackling machines in Matt Milano, who's fucking healthy, finally, and Terrell Bernard. So I think the Broncos are kind of fucked. The weakness that I think Denver could theoretically exploit is that the Bills are weak on the interior defensive line. Like, Ed Oliver is good, but he's purely a pass rusher. And then I guess their nose guard is going to be Dwayne Smoot. That's bad. He's fucking 260-pound nose guard, dude.
That's too small.
Yeah, and like they have Daquan Jones.
He's out.
He's not going to be... Daquan Jones was long a guy who it's like, hey, he's solid. And now he's in his 30s. And like that solid has become like, well, he's not a problem. But the Broncos are just really good at running the ball inside. right? Their gap scheme runs are really effective, especially because Quinn Meinerz is just a fucking maniac. He picked up Quentin Nelson's mantle, dude, of just like a freakish guy who loves to run block. That being said, not afraid of the Broncos offense.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you're going to have to count on Bo Nix to win the game. And they do have some deep threats where I do get scared about, launching a ball to Sutton or Mims.
Yeah.
But I think that overall, they're going to be able to stifle them. Like, yeah, they might give up some touchdowns, but I don't think they're going to, it's going to be a shootout. And I think they're going to force them into some turnovers.
So they do have sick deep threats, right? I love Mims. Cortland Sutton is like poor man's Mike Evans, never gets any shine. Bo Nix has been hot lately, but on the season, he's 30.56% on aimed deep balls. That is third worst in the league, with only Caleb Williams and a super tiny sample size from Dak Prescott. He's bad at throwing deep, and he's getting better, but if my biggest fear is, what if Bo Nix throws a deep bomb? I feel okay. On the other side, the Broncos defense has been very good, but it's really overachieved. Like Bones Bonito, our guy, finally breaking out, loving to see it. And then Jonathan Cooper, who's like poor man's Bones Bonito. They just got two undersized, twitchy-ass edge rushers. They're both good. Not elite, but good. They're fucked, dude. You can't tackle Josh Allen. They're both way smaller than Josh Allen. Even if they get clean pressure, I don't know if they're going to be able to take him down. I'm not joking at all, man. And then the Broncos secondary is, it's kind of, well, it is constructed and it's used very similarly. That's why I'm struggling with this comparison. But like the Rams for a while there built their secondary out of, we've got like two studs and then a bunch of guys who are just there. And we're going to try to leverage the fact that we got these two studs to make as much havoc in the secondary as we can. Now the Rams did that by weird placement and weird coverage assignments with very basic zone defense concepts. The Broncos do it with crazy fucking exotic defenses, man. They've got a lot of plays that are half zone, half man. They've got a lot of match concepts in zone, and they got a lot of weird zone blitzes and sim pressures. Vance Joseph has stepped it the fuck up this year. But have fun with your Patrick Surtain. He's probably just going to take Amari Cooper out of the game, which doesn't seem to matter because Josh Allen's barely had Amari Cooper at all this year.
Yeah, I mean, Amari Cooper, I don't believe he's with the team right now.
Is he not?
What last I saw, which was admittedly early this morning, he was out with a family matter.
Well, and he's hurt. I know he's hurt too. So he might not even play. But again, that's best case scenario for the Broncos is they just wash away Amari Cooper. Worst case scenario is you don't know what to do with Patrick Surtain because Mac Hollins isn't really good and Curtis Samuel's definitely not who you want Patrick Surtain on, and Keon Coleman kind of sucks and doesn't really know how to play football, and you're not putting him on Dalton Kincaid or Dawson Knox. So all of a sudden, I don't know what the fuck you do with this awesome corner. Like, he just doesn't help because that's not how they play football.
I mean, he still helps because he can still take away anybody that's on the field.
That's true. And the elephant in the room is Brandon Jones, another one of my fucking guys breaking out this year.
Super high on him.
I loved him. By the way, Ashton Davis breaking my fucking heart last week against the Dolphins with 2 picks.
Yeah, he's so streaky, though, because he's terrible sometimes.
It's because he's from Santa Cruz. The problem with all things in this world are Northern California. If you've been to, when you go to Santa Cruz.
We don't have time for this.
I know, I got to go to hockey in like 10 minutes, but when you go to Santa Cruz, you will know, you will quickly say, I know what Joe was saying. These are weird people that aren't trustworthy. He can take away one of the 2 tight ends. He can't take away both. And this entire Bills offense basically boils down to James Cook in space and Josh Allen doing fuck shit. Josh Allen will do fuck shit. I don't like it to the extent that I want to bet it at 9 or 8.5, but it's a hell of a fucking leg, which I want to use in one of the next couple games.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't want to bet on it at, it's already 9, because that's just too big for a team that has, like, playing against the Broncos, who do have a very good defense and could get some turnovers.
Yeah.
So I agree, leg. But next up at 3:30, we have the Green Bay Packers going to play the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are -4.5.
This number got away from us. I think we can wait on this because eventually they're going to say that Jordan Love is all clear, good to go, and this spread will come down to like 3.5. My issue is if Jalen Hurts comes back, the number's going to go back up, right? I think you wait, and what you do is you parlay the Eagles. Shout out Birdman. Parlay the Eagles money line with the Bills money line. If you don't get Jalen Hurts, I like it better because, frankly, I don't think Kenny Pickett's any worse than Jalen Hurts at all, and I don't think Tanner McKee is worse than Kenny Pickett. Like, all three of them play very different styles, but they're similar caliber in the long run. And Kellen Moore is a very diverse offensive coordinator. He can figure out the minutia.
I think Hurts is better if only because he's more familiar and he's, practiced with these guys, played with these guys way more than either Pickett or McKee have. But I don't think he's that much better that would be worth losing the points.
Yeah. Yeah, like, so all things equal, I think Hurts is probably best just because it's safest. But on the other side of that coin, if Kenny Pickett plays, because he's unfamiliar, his modus operandi seems to be, fuck it, A.J. Brown. And that's literally the best play in the Eagles playbook.
That's fair. I think I like your Philly-Buffalo money line best.
The Packers are just frauds. Scheme fades in the playoffs, and scheme is all they have, right? Like, they're not going to be able to run the ball very effectively against this fucking Eagles stalwart front. Jordan Love is not going to be able to be hidden. Christian Watson's out. He tore his ACL again. I think that's the third time. So he's not going to have that field stretching element quite the same way. And Jordan Love kind of fucking sucks. He sucked all year. I don't need to go into it. We've been over it 1 billion times at this point. Yeah, I think the Eagles definitely win. I want to wait until we get some more information so that the spread comes down to where I think it should be. But the Eagles are certainly the side. Throw them together with the Bills. That's a good bet. So throw a unit on that parlay.
Do you know what the number is?
Fuck no. Start introing the next one and I'll tell you the number.
All right. And Sunday night at 7 p.m., we have the Washington Commanders going to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs are -3.
Well, if this isn't the most consequential fucking game of the entire year for my Twitter mentions. Yeah, you can get -120 on that parlay.
I'm good with that.
I like the Buccaneers. I like them quite a bit. Quietly, the Commanders suck.
Yeah.
Honestly, Jaden Daniels was terrible against the Cowboys, who have now twice in the last month or so shown a clear blueprint to shutting Jaden Daniels down. Todd Bowles also figured out how to shut down Jaden Daniels in week 1. And again, scheme fades in the playoffs. And scheme's all Washington has, unless they put Marcus Mariota in, but they're not that smart.
No.
On the other side of the ball, Washington's defense sucks. And Baker Mayfield and the boys are balling. And Washington is especially bad against the run, and Bucky Irving is going to get 1 billion yards. This is going to be a blowout. This might be such a clear win for the Buccaneers that Todd Bowles could keep his job and torture me forever.
I agree. We bet on the Bucs. I think if only because I don't see Washington stopping them that much.
Yeah.
And their offense has been a lot worse lately. Scheme fades in the playoffs. I do worry that because, the Bucs largely shut them down in week 1, but that's week 1. I don't really put a lot of stock into it.
Completely agree.
And overall, what we've seen is that the Bucs play soft cover defense.
Yeah.
And Washington thrives off of screens and quick throws.
But they're all to the outside, not the middle. And that's where Tampa's weak.
Yeah, but I just worry that they're going to be able to chunk their way down the field. And then they just need, one big play here or there, Terry McLaurin to do something crazy. But overall, it's 3, and I don't think Washington's going to have to score 28 points.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's the other one is we love doing this bet. Buccaneers team total over should be 28 points in this game, roundabout. That's a little high, but I think they get there.
Yeah, I think they do too.
Remember the days when we could consistently just easily profit with Buccaneers over 21 and Baker Mayfield more than 1 touchdown pass?
No more.
Times used to be easy and nice.
But yeah, I like the Bucs. Even if they give up some big plays or they give up some drives, I don't think Jaden Daniels is going to be able to do it consistently enough.
Mm-hmm.
And Baker, he can have some bad picks. He did it as recently as last week.
I was tipped. That was not his fault.
Yeah, but he's still always it's the batted down stuff.
He did have 3 or 4 batted balls, which is not good.
Right. So, he can do that and it can create turnovers and then get him into hero ball. But I don't think the Commanders are going to be scoring at will, that they're ever going to be down enough that Baker's going to go into hero ball.
Yeah.
So I think we go with it. I mean, Mike Evans, really that entire offense should be able to just absolutely eat.
Well, so people are talking a lot about Mike Evans versus Marshawn Lattimore, but Marshawn Lattimore is not healthy.
No,
Like,
I mean, he hasn't
he'll
played.
play. He'll play, but he's going to be a shell of himself. It's not going to look the same. And frankly, he didn't look good last time he played anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he's barely played this year.
Yeah. So I think that like Sanders will be a great matchup on McMillan. I think that's a perfect matchup, right? Like those are both two quick dudes who one runs great routes, one has great instincts. That'll be fun. But other than that, like I think the Buccaneers are going to run the ball extremely effectively. I think their protection's going to hold up really well against this weak defensive line. And yeah, Mike Evans will always get his because he is Mike Evans.
All right, it's a bet. -3. Probably best bet. And on to Monday night, the last game of the wild card round. We have the Minnesota Vikings going to play the Los Angeles Rams. The Vikings are -1.
Who wins the game, Alex?
I don't know.
I don't fucking either, dude. And it sucks because these are two teams that I like and have liked for a long time. So I wish I had way more time to go through with it. You know what? I'm going to be late to hockey. Fuck them. I don't need warm-ups. Matt Stafford has long been one of my very favorites. He's been underrated for a decade plus. He was an elite quarterback. He should be in the Hall of Fame. And as recently as last year, he was great. But the last month, he's kind of been asshole. And I kind of want to say, Alex, don't trust Stafford. Stafford is asshole. But on the other hand, he's had 2 weeks to get healthy. He's a fucking baller. And I know he's old, and I know he doesn't have it, but it's the playoffs, man. And people bring their best shit back out for the playoffs, especially a winner, a vet like Matt Stafford. And the Vikings play a lot of zone, and Stafford is really good against zone. And Puka Nacua is a freak. I think
don't
the
want to
Rams...
bet on this game.
I'm going to bet on this motherfucking game, goddammit. And I think I know what I want to do, but I don't want to admit it. Do you know that like 90% of your decisions are made on impulse and then the rest of your thinking is actually just rationalizing the impulse that your brain has already decided upon?
Judges make a lot more sense.
You're telling me, man. Everything really is just vibes, dude. I also don't know if I believe that fact. I read it in a science journal and I said, this feels fatalist to me. I think we have free will, which is an impulse decision that I made. And then I thought afterwards to justify that thought. Fuck, they got me again. On the other side, I think I am certain. Write it down. Sam Darnold will not play like Dirty Penis again. He won't even play like Dirty Gooch. In fact, he'll play decent. At the very least, because this Rams secondary sucks so bad.
Yeah.
And Akello Witherspoon's their number one corner, and he's 6'2", but he gets lost in space all the time. And he's going up against Justin Jefferson, who's like the king of space and route running. No, thank you. On the other side, you got Darius Williams. Darius Williams, good slot corner. He's playing outside. He shouldn't be doing that. He's also 5'8". Jordan Addison never has a height advantage, and he's really good. Now Jordan Addison has a fucking height advantage of 3 inches. Nuts. I also have no clue on earth who's going to cover TJ Hawkinson. Do they bring Cam Curl down in and play him like a linebacker? I still think Hawkinson burns Curl. Curl's not good in coverage. He's a run-stopping safety, which is not a useful thing in this decade. Now, the Rams defense is, does the defensive line get home? And this Minnesota offensive line is good. I trust them. I also trust the play-action game to slow down the pressure and to take Darnold's brain off of the rush. He can't shit himself 2 weeks in a row. It's just not going to happen.
So getting into their red zone woes, something we wanted to talk about. Do you think it's just that in the red zone, Sam Darnold has to think?
It's harder to pass in the red zone always, right? Like the red zone's the hardest place to pass because you have to make quick decisions and be hyper accurate. You can't fuck around. Like it's easiest to move the ball, but it's really easy to move the ball between the 20-yard lines. Middle of the field. You have the most room to work with. You have nothing to worry about. You can take a sack. It's fine. When you get into either the red zone or like the negative red zone, your own goal line, shit gets tough, right? Because you're backed up. You don't get the luxury of fucking around. A holding penalty totally butt fucks you, costs you points. So you got to be clean. Running the ball is really effective in the red zone. But for whatever reason, the Vikings just have not been able to run the ball very effectively. And Aaron Jones is banged up. He has been for a month, so maybe he's not the same. They don't try it though, and it's frustrating because KOC is a great coach, and he's had in past years great red zone plays. And fuck, I mean, last week against the Lions, KOC drew up looks that got primary receivers open, and Darnold just didn't fucking see them. So it's very frustrating. I have to think that Kevin O'Connell recognizes this problem because it was so glaring last week, right? Like, it's something they've struggled with all year, but on Sunday Night Football, with the conference on the line, they failed completely at the goal line. So I have to imagine they're going to spend all week harping on that and just making sure they're perfect in that way, right? Fuck. So the other thing is, like, a lot of my handicap is I don't trust Sean McVay to make the right decisions. He is a coward. He runs the ball. He kicks instead of going for it. He punts instead of going for it. But it's the fucking playoffs, and like he has shown a propensity to be a smart man, an ability to be a smart man. And I don't want to bet that when push comes to shove, he continues to shit himself like he has for the last 2 years. But on the other hand, I don't want to bet on him being something he hasn't been for 2 years.
Exactly. I definitely prefer Minnesota's coaching staff in this game.
Oh yeah, so we got the better coach, and I think we've got similar quarterbacks right now. The way Stafford's been playing, but there's so many unknowns. I know. Like, Darnold's a roller coaster. Stafford's been slumping. You're right, we shouldn't bet on this game. I'm going to put a unit on the Vikings. I'm just going to.
You kind of convinced me on it. It's scary, but I think you're right. It's just playing into fear that Darnold shits himself. But so it's like, I think the right bet is the Vikings. It's because it's basically a pick 'em, and the only reason we wouldn't is that we think Darnold is going to have another bad game, whether it's the pressure that gets to him, whether it's just people are figuring him out, or it's just that he's not that good and sometimes he has bad games. But I think overall, Cock has shown a way to get the most out of him.
Cock can really take it out of you.
And this isn't a good defense.
No, it's a bad defense. And the other thing is, and I think this actually helps the Vikings, they played this Rams team before. They played them. They played a bad game. They got kind of screwed, so they're probably pissed off. And they lost a game they could have won. When teams play multiple times, advantage goes to the team with the better coach. And I think that Kevin O'Connell's the better coach.
Yeah. And like the other thing I was going to say is that it's the reason we wouldn't bet on the Vikings is Darnold, but it's also the fear that McVay returns to that more aggressive downfield play caller, and that Stafford returns to playoff gamer and just Stafford. Whereas McVay hasn't shown us that in the regular season or the last couple postseasons. And Stafford is hurt and has looked bad recently.
I mean, in the last month, the Rams have scored 13, 19, and 12 points. Now, they played awesome against Buffalo, but that was the week after Thanksgiving. And I trust Brian Flores to man up, right? Not like by being macho, but like by playing man defense, because the Rams are so good against zone. Vikings are a fucking healthy team. I think they're going to go to the Super Bowl. I think they'll lose, but I think they'll go. Step one is beating a dysfunctional Rams team who loves to waste downs by running.
And they have to use Kyren Williams.
Yeah, no quorum.
All right, I think we got our bets.
All right, what do we got? Read them off to me.
We have Chargers -3 at Houston. We have Tampa Bay -3 hosting Washington.
2 units.
2 units, best bet. I agree.
I mean, what do we got to lose? If Washington wins that game, I'm going to have to delete Twitter.
Yeah, you are.
I had to think about deleting Twitter because Jaden Daniels stands were so fucking nuts last week before they played the Cowboys. And then he played like asshole and got pulled at halftime, not because he played bad, because he was being rested and maybe hurt. And then Marcus Mariota balled out, and they're still coming after me. They proved me right! Baker Mayfield needs to drop a fucking nutsack on the Commander's face.
I believe in him. He does well. He's played well in playoffs. He's been the best he's ever been this year.
Get ready to knock on wood. Baker Mayfield's never lost in the first round of the playoffs. Every time he's gone, he's won a game. All
right. And then we also had to finish it out on top of those 3 bets on single game spreads. We also have a moneyline parlay with Buffalo and Philly that is -120.
2 units.
And a 2 unit bet. What, 5 units this week? 6 units.
Sounds great.
6 units. 6 games, 6 units.
Yeah, the only two that we didn't bet on were Ravens Steelers. No, that's it.
Yeah, we just stayed far away from the AFC North in that strange line.
Fuck you guys. This was an action-packed pod. All right. I actually really have to get out the door to hockey now. I'm probably going to be late. So,
You're just the goalie. They don't need you.
yeah. Welcome to pumpkin season, everybody. The scheme fades in the playoffs. I will be doing the pumpkin thread tomorrow morning before this pod even gets posted in all likelihood. And in the meantime, savor these last moments because they're fleeting. We got a month left of this. And savor it by betting on football games. Asta.